Okay, so just continuing with this clone stamp layer and this clone stamp tool, I've transitioned a lot, but notice that this edge now is quite soft and not as dark as I wanted it from before. So another technique I can do with the low opacity clone stamp is make it a little bit bigger and still very soft. And I'm going to target a dark area of my scale and then paint that in a little bit. Now, I have to move my target, like keep hitting Option and changing my target with each selection. Otherwise it will travel and not be that dark shadow anymore. And that is trickier. And again, if I want to lighten it up somewhere. There's also a tool we're going to use in finishing this up called the burn tool, which will darken the existing pixels. But for right now, I'm okay. If I want to make this, without clone stamp, if I want to make that horn stand out more, I'm going to actually use that tool to show you its potential. And the problem with having a clone stamp layer, I'm going to turn it off, is it makes selecting layers difficult. So I actually don't want this layer as much as I want the layer behind it. Now that I have the layer behind it, I'm going to use the burn tool, which is 4 tools underneath the eraser. And it's in the drawer. Come on. Not sure why that's not opening for me. Try turning those on and off. Huh. That's really odd. I think it's because I was in the painting mode instead of essentials. But anyway, the burn tool looks like this. And so if you don't see it and you want to use it, go from the painting default setup, which is new for me in this version of Creative Cloud, and go to Essentials. So once I'm on the layer I want, the burn tool will darken my midtones. And I have it at 50%, which is really strong. And I have a brush tool, and I want it really soft and pretty large. And you'll see now that I can darken the layer directly where those scales are to make this neck a little bit more believable. And I can do that with the other layers too that border it. And I can even do it with the horn as long as I'm on that layer. Now, just like I can burn an edge to make it more believable, and this will all be underneath the clone stamp effects that I've put in. I can also lighten the edge, and that's the dodge tool. And same thing, your exposure can be quite high, but I only feel safe doing it in the mid-tone range because I don't want to go too bright white. But I can catch a little bit more light on these horns that way. Make them a little bit more solid looking. Now let's see how that all works together with the clone stamp. Works pretty well. So I can also dodge and burn the clone stamp layer, which can be extremely helpful. Because not only does it make it more, it differentiates it even more from just being copy and pasted from somewhere else. But it helps fit your lighting scheme in a more believable way. Now it's limited to wherever you have clone stamped. But you're not supposed to be able to tell where you did it. So you just work it as though everything is the way you want. Okay, so moving on to the clone stamp and finishing this up, where I have hard edges that I want to get rid of, I need to transition. I need to go to 100% clone stamp with a soft edge. And I need to transition them down, moving my selection with me, going back and forth. Again, not too worried if I go outside of the edge, so I'll clean that up. If there's things you just absolutely need to get rid of, like this number, you can do that with clone stamp, but make sure you get rid of any telltale marks. Oh, that's pretty good. All right. The larger you use it, the more aggressive it is, and the more likely you'll have kind of ghosting effects that you don't want. And remember, this is over the top of everything. So if I don't want to affect the hand, I can just turn off the hands for now and work within what is visible. And then it won't affect the hands. Okay, so the first thing I'm trying to do is just soften these edges, make it believable. Then I can use a lower opacity clone stamp to smooth these transitions. So now let's go to about 50%. Take a little bit of this, clone stamp it into this, keep that seam in between the ribs there. Take a little bit of that color, move it into here, soften that seam. And then decide how to transition them into each other. Actually take that seam and use it a little bit here as almost an armpit. Might be useful. So we're being a little creative with our anatomy here, but we're hoping it makes sense on our sketch and in our vision overall. And harder edged materials like this are harder to blend than soft edged materials. Okay, now let's see what I have with my legs. So it shows me how much I need. Okay, so now I know I need to cover up quite a bit more of this, because a lot of it's going to be showing. And I haven't used any of the hand, so now I can take the arm layer and just move it above my clone stamp layer, the whole group. See, so it's just overlapping with this belly, so I don't need to worry about it. But I only want to use the clone stamp tool on that one clone stamp layer. I have to make sure I understand it clearly. And I'm only having to clone stamp so much because I never found good reference for the belly of a lizard to use. But it's good to be able to show you these techniques. All right, turn the arms on. Now I need to finish cleaning up those legs. So clone stamp shouldn't be done lightly. And it really shouldn't be done until everything's cleaned up, but I'll come back and use it. So now I'm going to do legs and arms. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the clone stamp layer so I don't accidentally select it when I don't want to. And I'm back to erasing. With full opacity. Cleaning up these silhouettes. Bless you. And 82 is a pretty good hardness for defining these edges. Now this is a high resolution image. I could zoom in and get every little pixel. And it's easy to try to be a perfectionist or to want to be a perfectionist. But I also just want to get this done by the deadline and have something to turn in. So that's why I'm erasing from this distance first. If it looks good at this distance, I'm zoomed in, it's bigger than the computer screen, it's going to look pretty good in printing. And then if I have time to just fine-tune, cut it out, I'll do that. Right now, this will do. So I want those otter paws. I want to get rid of all this other debris. The paws look quite dark, but remember I have levels to play with. I have dodge and burn to play with. I can make it what I need, as long as my anatomy makes sense. That little bit of debris. Let's see. There we go. That's why I love the auto select layer function, so I don't ever need to guess or try to figure out what layer things are on. I'll just automatically go there. Alright, almost done. Clean it up a little bit tighter. Maybe not that much. Now I want to transition between these a little bit. And I want to play with levels and adjustments. And then obviously clone stamping is going to be required. Okay, so let's play with those feet first. I can select them. I can actually select multiples if I hold down Shift. It will give me both those layers. But if I want to adjust them, I have to do them one at a time. Just levels. I haven't done any color balancing yet. I'm going to brighten that foot up a little bit, deepen its shadows. Same thing here. This will make the different photographing conditions more similar. Use these tools correctly.